Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The story of Islam in Denmark begins in the 1960s, but let's go back a bit. Denmark, like much of Scandinavia, didn't have much contact with the Islamic world for a long time. You might have had the odd traveler or trader passing through, but no significant Muslim presence. The real change came with the economic boom after World War II. Denmark's economy was growing fast, and they needed workers. In 1967, they started a guest worker program, mainly recruiting from Turkey, Pakistan, Yugoslavia, and Morocco. A lot of these workers were Muslim. Here's the thing. At first, everyone thought this was temporary. The idea was these workers would come, help out for a few years, then head back home. But life doesn't always work out that neatly, does it? Many of these workers ended up staying, settling down, and starting families in Denmark. Then in the 1980s and 1990s, the picture changed again. Denmark started taking in refugees from countries torn apart by war and conflict. We're talking places like Iran, Iraq, Lebanon, Palestine, and Somalia. Again, many of these refugees were Muslim. This is when you start seeing the development of Muslim communities in Denmark. The first proper mosque was built in Copenhagen in 1967. More followed, along with Islamic schools and cultural centers. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. The 1980s and 90s saw growing debates about immigration and integration. Some Danes were worried about how these new communities would fit into Danish society. You started hearing terms like parallel societies being thrown around. Then came the 2000s and things got even more complicated. The 9/11 attacks in the US had ripple effects worldwide, including in Denmark. Suddenly, Islam was in the spotlight in a whole new way. You had the cartoon controversy in 2005, where a Danish newspaper published cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad, sparking international protests. All of this has shaped the relationship between Denmark and its Muslim population. It's led to ongoing debates about things like freedom of speech, religious freedom, and what it means to be Danish in a multicultural society. Today, Islam is Denmark's second largest religion after Christianity. You've got second and third generation Danish Muslims who were born and raised in Denmark alongside more recent immigrants. It's a diverse community with roots in many different countries and cultures. So that's the fuller picture of how Islam came to Denmark. It's a relatively recent story, but one that's had a big impact on Danish society. From guest workers to refugees to established communities, it's been a journey of challenges and changes, shaping modern Denmark in significant ways. All right, let's dig deeper into the numbers and demographics of Muslims in Denmark. This is a bit tricky because, as I mentioned before, Denmark doesn't officially register people's religious affiliations. So we're working with estimates and surveys here, but I'll give you the most up-to-date and reliable information we have. As of 2023, the best estimates put the number of Muslims in Denmark at around 320,000. That's about 5.5% of Denmark's total population. Now, this is a significant increase from just a few decades ago. Back in 1980, for instance, Muslims made up less than 1% of the population. When it comes to the breakdown between Sunni and Shia Muslims, we don't have exact figures, but based on global patterns and smaller-scale surveys, it's estimated that about 85–90% of Danish Muslims are Sunni, while 10–15% are Shia. This roughly mirrors the global distribution of these two main branches of Islam. Now let's break it down a bit more. The largest groups of Muslims in Denmark have roots in Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, Pakistan, and Somalia. But you've also got Muslims from Bosnia, Iran, Afghanistan, and North African countries. It's worth noting that these communities aren't evenly distributed across Denmark. They tend to be concentrated in urban areas. Copenhagen, the capital, has the largest Muslim population, followed by other big cities like Aarhus and Odense. Here's an interesting point. The Muslim population in Denmark is relatively young. A higher percentage of Muslims are under 30 compared to the general Danish population. This is partly due to higher birth rates among some Muslim communities, but also because many Muslims came to Denmark as young adults or children of immigrants. Another important factor is conversion. While it's not a huge number, there are ethnic Danes who have converted to Islam. It's estimated to be around 2,800–3,000 people, but it's hard to get an exact count. Now, when we talk about these numbers, it's crucial to remember that Muslim isn't a monolithic identity. You've got people from different countries, speaking different languages, with varying levels of religious observance. Some might visit the mosque regularly, while others might only identify as Muslim culturally. Also, these numbers are constantly changing. Denmark continues to receive immigrants and refugees from Muslim-majority countries, although immigration policies have tightened in recent years. One last point. There's often a gap between perception and reality when it comes to these numbers. Surveys have shown that many Danes overestimate the percentage of Muslims in the country, sometimes by quite a lot. This perception gap can influence public debate and policy discussions. So that's the demographic picture of Muslims in Denmark. It's a growing, young, and diverse population, mainly concentrated in urban areas, with roots in many different countries. And while we can't get exact numbers, the estimates we have give us a pretty good idea of the size and composition of this community. Muslims in Denmark are mainly concentrated in urban areas. This is where we really get to see how Islam and Danish culture interact on a day-to-day basis. First off, as I mentioned earlier, Muslims in Denmark are mostly concentrated in urban areas. Copenhagen, the capital, has the largest Muslim population. You'll find significant Muslim communities in neighborhoods like Nørrebro and Vesterbro. Other cities with notable Muslim populations include Aarhus, Odense, and Aalborg. In terms of what they do, Danish Muslims are involved in pretty much every sector of society. You've got Muslim doctors, teachers, engineers, shopkeepers, taxi drivers, politicians, you name it. There's a growing Muslim middle class, with more and more young Muslims entering higher education and professional careers. That said, it's worth noting that unemployment rates tend to be higher among some Muslim immigrant groups compared to ethnic Danes. This is often due to a mix of factors, including language barriers, differences in education, and, unfortunately, some discrimination in the job market. When it comes to daily religious practices, it can be a bit of a balancing act. Most workplaces and schools in Denmark don't have dedicated prayer rooms, so Muslims often need to find creative solutions for their daily prayers. During Ramadan, fasting Muslims have to navigate long summer days. Remember, Denmark is pretty far north, while keeping up with work or school. Food is another interesting aspect. Halal food is widely available in major cities with many halal butchers and restaurants. Some public schools offer halal options in their cafeterias, though this has been a point of debate. In terms of community life, mosques play a big role. They're not just places of worship, but also community centers where people gather for social events, educational programs, and celebrations. Eid celebrations are big events in Muslim communities, often involving large gatherings and festivals. Education is a key issue. While most Muslim children attend regular Danish schools, there are also some Islamic schools in Denmark. These schools follow the Danish curriculum but also offer Islamic studies and Arabic language classes. When it comes to clothing, you'll see a range of practices. Some Muslim women wear hijabs, fewer wear niqabs. Face veils were banned in public spaces in 2018, which caused some controversy, and many don't wear any head covering at all. Most Muslim men dress in typical Western clothing. It's important to note that there's a lot of diversity in how Danish Muslims practice their faith and culture. You've got very observant Muslims and others who are more secular. You've got those who strongly maintain the traditions of their or their parents' home countries, and others who've adopted a more Danish lifestyle. Integration is an ongoing process. Many Danish Muslims, especially second and third generation, feel fully Danish and participate actively in Danish society. They celebrate Danish holidays, speak Danish fluently, and are involved in local community activities. At the same time, many maintain connections to their cultural heritage. There are also initiatives to build bridges between Muslim communities and the broader Danish society. Interfaith dialogues, open mosque days, and cultural exchange programs are becoming more common. So that's a snapshot of daily life for Muslims in Denmark. It's a mix of maintaining religious and cultural traditions while navigating life in a secular, Northern European society. Like any community, it's diverse and constantly evolving, facing challenges but also creating new ways of being both Muslim and Danish. All right, let's talk about the challenges and problems that the Muslim population in Denmark faces. It's important to approach this sensitively, but also honestly. One of the biggest issues is discrimination. Unfortunately, many Muslims in Denmark report experiencing some form of discrimination, whether it's in the job market, housing, or just in day-to-day interactions. Studies have shown that job applicants with Muslim-sounding names are less likely to be called for interviews compared to those with typical Danish names, even with identical qualifications. There's also the challenge of integration. While many Muslims are well integrated into Danish society, there's ongoing debate about cultural differences and how to balance maintaining one's cultural identity with adapting to Danish norms. This can lead to feelings of being caught between two worlds, especially for younger generations. Language can be a barrier for some, particularly older immigrants or new arrivals. While Denmark offers language courses, mastering Danish can be challenging, and not being fluent can limit job opportunities and social interactions. Religious practice sometimes clashes with Danish secular norms. For example, the ban on ritual slaughter without pre-stunning has made it difficult to produce halal meat in Denmark. The face veil ban, while affecting only a small number of women, has been seen by some as targeting Muslims specifically. Education is another area of concern. While many Muslim students do well in school, there are higher dropout rates among some immigrant groups. There's debate about the role of mother tongue education and how to best support students from diverse backgrounds. Socioeconomic issues are also prevalent. Some Muslim communities have higher rates of poverty and unemployment compared to the general Danish population. This can lead to concentrated areas of social housing with high immigrant populations, sometimes referred to as parallel societies or ghettos in Danish political discourse. Political representation is improving, with more Muslims entering local and national politics, but it's still not proportional to the population. There's also the issue of being often seen as representatives of their religion, rather than just as politicians with diverse views. Media representation is a persistent problem. Many Danish Muslims feel that media portrayals often focus on negative stories or stereotypes, contributing to a skewed public perception of their communities. Radicalization, while affecting only a tiny minority, has been a concern. The actions of a few individuals can sometimes lead to the entire Muslim community being viewed with suspicion. Mental health is an emerging issue. Studies have shown higher rates of stress and depression among some immigrant groups, often linked to experiences of discrimination and the challenges of navigating between different cultural expectations. There's also the broader challenge of Islamophobia, which we'll get into more in the next section. This can manifest in various ways, from hostile political rhetoric to hate crimes. Lastly, there's the ongoing challenge of identity. Many young Danish Muslims grapple with questions of belonging. Are they Danish, Muslim, both? How do they balance these identities in a society that sometimes sees them as contradictory? It's important to note that while these problems exist, many Danish Muslims are actively working to address them. There are numerous Muslim-led organizations focused on integration, interfaith dialogue, youth support, and combating discrimination. Many of these issues are also recognized by Danish authorities and civil society organizations, with various initiatives aimed at promoting inclusion and equality. So while the challenges are significant, there's also a lot of work being done to overcome them and build a more inclusive Danish society. All right, let's dive into the issue of Islamophobia in Denmark. This is a sensitive topic, but it's important to address it honestly. Islamophobia, or fear and prejudice against Muslims, is unfortunately present in Denmark, as it is in many Western countries. It's a complex issue that manifests in various ways, from individual attitudes to institutional practices. On an individual level, surveys have shown that a significant minority of Danes hold negative views about Muslims. These attitudes can range from general unease about Islamic culture to outright hostility. This can lead to discrimination in daily life, in job applications, housing, or just casual social interactions. There have been instances of hate crimes against Muslims in Denmark. These include verbal abuse, vandalism of mosques, and in some cases, physical attacks. While these extreme cases are relatively rare, they contribute to a sense of insecurity among some Muslims. In the political sphere, some parties have used anti-Muslim rhetoric as part of their platforms. The Danish People's Party, for example, has been criticized for its stance on immigration and Islam. Even more mainstream parties have at times adopted policies that some view as targeting Muslims, like restrictions on immigration from Muslim-majority countries. Media representation is another area of concern. Some Danish Muslims feel that media coverage often focuses disproportionately on negative stories involving Muslims, or presents Islam in a way that emphasizes its differences from Danish culture rather than points of commonality. There have been specific flashpoints that have intensified debates about Islam in Denmark. The Muhammad cartoon controversy in 2005-2006 is probably the most famous internationally. More recently, there have been debates about issues like the face veil ban, which some see as specifically targeting Muslim women. In terms of organized anti-Islamic groups, Denmark has seen the emergence of groups like Stop Islamiseringen af Danmark, Stop the Islamization of Denmark. While these groups are small, they can be vocal and their activities often get media attention. It's important to note that there are also many efforts to combat Islamophobia in Denmark. Many politicians, civil society organizations, and interfaith groups actively speak out against discrimination and work to promote understanding between different communities. The Danish government has taken some steps to address the issue. There are laws against hate speech and religious discrimination. However, some critics argue that more needs to be done to address structural forms of Islamophobia. Education is seen as a key tool in combating Islamophobia. There are initiatives to promote intercultural understanding in schools and to provide more balanced information about Islam and Muslim cultures. Muslim organizations in Denmark are also active in countering Islamophobia. They organize open mosque days, participate in interfaith dialogues, and engage in public debates to challenge stereotypes and misinformation. It's worth noting that experiences of Islamophobia can vary widely among Danish Muslims. Factors like visible religious symbols, like wearing a hijab, name, skin color, and level of integration can all affect how individuals experience prejudice. The struggle against Islamophobia in Denmark is ongoing. While there have been positive steps, many Danish Muslims feel that more needs to be done to create a truly inclusive society where they are seen as fully Danish, regardless of their religious beliefs. This is a complex issue without easy solutions. It touches on broader questions about national identity, multiculturalism, and the place of religion in a secular society. The conversation about how to address Islamophobia while also dealing with legitimate concerns about integration and social cohesion is likely to continue to be a significant part of Danish public discourse in the coming years. All right, so that wraps up our deep dive into the Muslim population in Denmark. We've covered a lot of ground here, from the history of how Islam came to Denmark, to the numbers and demographics, daily life, challenges faced by the community, and the complex issue of Islamophobia. As you can see, it's a nuanced topic with many layers. The story of Muslims in Denmark is one of integration, challenges, and ongoing conversations about what it means to be Danish in a diverse, multicultural society. I hope this video has given you a clearer picture of the situation and maybe even sparked your interest to learn more. There's always more to explore when it comes to understanding different communities and cultures within our societies. If you found this information helpful or interesting, why not hit that subscribe button? I'll be creating more content like this, diving into complex social issues and trying to present them in a balanced, informative way. By subscribing, you'll be sure not to miss out on future videos where we tackle other important topics just like this one. Dear brothers and sisters, if you have any thoughts or experiences on this topic, feel free to share them in the comments below. Let's keep the conversation going and learn from each other. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.